You're listening to a podcast from the Finnish Football Show.
Yes, it's the Finnish Football Show. I'm Mark Wiltshire, back with lots to discuss as the Veikkausliiga gets going. Now we've had most teams played about 5 games. I'm joined today by Keke. Hi, Keke.
Hyvää vappua.
Hyvää vappua. And Ali. Hi, Ali.
Moikka.
And with Rich. Hi, Rich.
Hey.
And we're here to look at the opening rounds of games. It's a little bit uneven. Some teams have played 5, 1 or 2 teams have played 2, so we can't read too much into it when it's so uneven. But what's new? Well, HJK are winning. What's old? HJK are at the top. But we'll also have a look and see if there's any surprises at this early stage. We'll also take a look at the early rounds of the Suomen Cup, and I've been to a couple of games, so I'll give you a little bit behind the scenes of what's been going on here in Seinäjoki. Rich is going to try and talk us through the inaugural Women's Nations League draw, because there's some fun and games there, and we'll explain more a little bit later. More news on ticket sales for the men's national team Euro 2024 qualifiers, and a bit of Finns overseas, and with from Keke and his Instagram profile. So, are we ready, gents?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Referee's whistle has gone. Let's get on with this and start with the Veikkausliiga. We waited a long time for this to come around. That winter break always seems far too long for my liking, and we're back. I thought that we could, in the show notes is all the scores and fixtures so far, league table, top scorers. But I thought we could maybe start by those of us that have got a Veikkausliiga team. Sorry, Keke. Just give a little bit of a sort of feeling what's going on with our teams. I said in the intro that HJK are at the top. And they've had 5 points and 5 games and 13 points so far. Ali, what have you noticed? What's been going on for HJK so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think 13 points from 5 games is a pretty solid return. 10 goals scored, 1 conceded. I've been really impressed with the defense so far. Not to rub it in, Mark, but Jesse Ost is doing a pretty decent job. And so I think defensively I've been really happy with what I've seen. I think having 4 home games has helped. I'm not sure, I can't remember whether it was you or Rich did mention it slightly. I know we would say tongue in cheek, or
if there's bitter comments about HJK, it's probably slightly originating from Rich.
Absolutely, a slightly side-eye comment as well. But it's a good point. And I think I replied, well, you can only play what's in front of you, and that is true. But
so what's been going on then? What made Rich make that comment?
Well, I would say when you play 4 home games out of 5 and you only have 1 away, you're naturally going to be quite favoured. I think HJK always do have one of the strongest, well, obviously the strongest home record in the league year on year. I mean, as I said, I've been really happy with the defence. There's been some, 1 goal conceded in 5 games, pretty solid. And I've actually been pleasantly surprised with Radulovic, the number 9 for HJK. He's again a trier, not the most prolific striker in the league. HJK's problems over the past couple of years, I mean, I say problems in inverted commas because obviously they've won the league, so this is only a small problem, but they don't have a number 9 that scores I mean, maybe even more than 12 goals a year, which is actually not the greatest return.
You say he's not the most prolific, but he is currently top of the goal scoring tables
with
5 out of 5. So
he has got
well.
5 out of 5, yeah, and he has scored in every single game apart from the away the away game against VPS. So he's had a really good start to the season. And again, I'm being really picky here because again, I think 13 points out of 15 is a really solid return. My concern moving forward is how strong they will be, particularly when it comes to creating chances and scoring goals when the European qualification games come around in the summer. I think that's where they might get found out a little bit more. Whereas last season, I think there was a little bit more creativity in the team, and you saw that obviously throughout the Veikkausliiga, but obviously in the European qualifying games as well. That's the sort of the little sort of black mark I've got against the team moving forward. But hey, I'm happy to be proven wrong when those games come around. So we'll see.
Rich, you made that comment about their fixtures. Is there some reason why they played 4 home out of 5?
No, I mean, the thing is, the Veikkausliiga fixture computer is weird at the best of times anyway. And what happened is in the kind of, I think it was the 3rd game week, they shunted Kups and Huuhkajat forward. I don't know if it's because they're in the European games later in the season or something. They do that. They move fixtures around. But they played VPS twice in 3 days. And the second game, they absolutely pumped them. Yes, it was. I think they won 1-0 away and then 4-0 at home.
Yeah.
3 days later on, and
I didn't
to be honest,
that. Interesting.
Yeah, so that was it. Their first 3 games, they played VPS twice. But I mean, the thing with them is with Huuhkajat is, I mean, Radulovic. I mean, that goal he scored on Saturday, he had nothing to do with it. It was Topi Keskinen, who's been a fantastic. I think he's 20 on the left wing. Did this sort of mazy, jinky run and basically put it on a plate and he couldn't miss. He scored 4 in the Liga Cup against Lahti in one of their games, and he's been really, really impressive over the last over the start of the season. But I mean, to be fair to Huuhkajat, they're in this position. Radulovic is very much the kind of, well, he's there, he'll do scoring a goal a game and all that. But I mean, they've got a really bad injury list at the moment. I mean, since the start of the season. Hettemeier, I don't think he's played at all. Rupariski's still not back. Valtteri Moran has had a setback after his long-term injury. God knows when he'll be back. Lingman's only just getting back into fitness. Olasanya got a knock in the first game. He's just making his way back. So, these are all probably starters. Maybe Olasanya not so much, but these are all starters.
So what you're saying, Rich, is the team that is currently top with 10 points out of 5 games. 13 points out of 5 games and 10 goals is going to get stronger.
Stronger, maybe, I don't know, but these are quality players they're missing. And I mean, we saw, Olasanya has the kind of the black mark over Rasikot, doesn't he? But he's at the end of last season, he was absolutely fantastic. And I mean, Huuhkajat announced last week, the week before, they made a pre-tax profit last year of €2.5 million, which if they went out and were able to fund a centre forward who could, say upgrade on Radulovic, but go and buy a centre forward who will score them the goals that get them back into the group stage of maybe the Europa League or more.
Are you thinking of a certain forward that might be leaving Norwich this summer?
You never know. I think, it's hard to see with what's happening with him. But I mean, if he came back, it'd just be game over, wouldn't it? But yeah, I think that's the kind of the thing, isn't it? They never look like the finished picture.
Ali.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rich did a really good job there of complimenting Huuhkajat without actually giving one single compliment. Yeah, hats off to you. I mean,
he's been doing this a long time,
Yes, he has. Yeah, yeah, seasoned pro. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, following on from that point about the €2.5 million, I did think that this was maybe the year where there could have been a little bit more money put in, purely off the back of the fact they've had 2 summers where relatively they've gone quite far in Europe, for a Finnish team getting into group stages and whatnot. So yeah, that money is still sitting there, possibly for a rainy day, possibly for to invest in the squad at some point if they feel like they need it. But yeah, I think, I mean, I'm looking forward to Friday night, Huuhkajat finally getting that away game, Rich, so you'll be happy, away at Coops, so a Friday evening game, which, yeah, will put first against third. I think Coops would have to. Oh yeah, no, you've played. You're only on 7. Sorry, I didn't realize that. I thought if you won, you could have gone top, but
No, but
no.
it's still a bit of a 6-pointer, isn't it? Because
Yeah, I think it is.
if Huuhkajat win, then they go 9 points clear of Coops after only 6 games, which would be a big gap already, a big gap to make up, and it would be nice to keep it a little bit tighter at the top there.
Yeah, I think
nice for us, Ali.
Well,
Sorry,
yeah.
not for...
yeah. I was going to say take that with a pinch of salt, but yeah, no, it is true that, and I think ultimately, yes, I want Huuhkajat to win, but I also want a really competitive Veikkausliiga. I don't want the league to be wrapped up in middle of June or anything like that. So, or feel like the league is going to only head one way in June. So it should be an interesting game. I know obviously Coops didn't start the season perfectly, but the last couple of the games they've looked really good. So it should be a really good test for Huuhkajat.
Well, let's come on to Coops. Keke, sorry.
I was just going to say, as Ali mentioned before about he's been so impressed with the defence and the only conceding that 1 goal so far. I mean, it's I thought that might be an area where Huuhkajat would have a couple of problems this year. I mean, there was question marks over Jesse Ost when he signed for Huuhkajat, and obviously with Hazard leaving, he played so well previously, and Artur Hoskonen going to Poland sort of left a big gap there. But yeah, they've been brilliant. I mean, I think Sawyer's been playing at the back, full back or wing back, full back role. Olila as well, and obviously the experience of Raitala, he's been playing as well. So yeah, they've been pretty stingy, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good point about Sawyer as well. The fact that he can play further forward, but playing right wing back is definitely a position that he can do. And I think, yes, he can do that for Huuhkajat, but maybe that could also be the long-term solution for the Finnish national team as well. Because I know obviously we do talk about, particularly on the right-hand side, the struggles of the Finnish national team. So, if he has a good season there, it could be the long-term solution in that position.
Rich, Ali mentioned Coops' start to the season. So currently sitting third, 5 games and 7 points. There's been stuff going on behind the scenes at Coops as well, hasn't there? Tell us a little bit what's happening at your club.
Yeah, God, where to start? I mean, we talked about over the winter, the departure of, Simo Valakari was the main one. He's off in Latvia now. He did a tremendous job with Cups. He won 2 Suomen Cups and 2 silver medals in the championship, and got lured away by big bucks in Latvia somehow. And it's difficult because Cups run at a loss anyway, and are bankrolled by the Finnish FA president Ari Lahti, no conflict of interest whatsoever, and they're losing money hand over fist. And what happened as well? You lose 2 of your best players in Tim Varon and Yanis Arkaniaks, and they're gone, and they weren't replaced at all. And you've replaced Valakari with his assistant, Pasituti, who, this is the problem throughout the ages in football. You could be a really good number 2, step up to the top job. I think at one point in his opening 3 games, and possibly harshly, but correctly, lost his job. And Jani Honkavara, who was the coach when Cups won the title a couple of years ago, was working for the Palolito, some kind of, I can't remember exactly the job. Coaching coach, coach teacher. And because he was a qualified teacher before he became a football manager. So he was available, and he's back, and 2 games and 2 wins. Kind of papers over the cracks a little bit. The first game against Ilves last week, Ilves were appalling, and Cups were lucky really, it was a 1-0 win with a late goal. They did okay and won 2-0 at Mariehamn on Sunday. I guess the highlight of that, I don't know which of you saw that, was Mariehamn had a corner. They were 1-0 down in the second half, and the PA announcer started playing their goal music while they were taking the corner. As the corner went in, it got cleared, and Cooks went up the other end and scored. So the fans
was the goal music still playing?
No, but the fans started singing it.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's a tactic. You might as well try it.
So it's after 5 games, having 7 points isn't ideal, but bear in mind 1 point after 3 games, it's good. It's hard to see really much improvement. Again, you're already chasing the coattails of Hoiko, and I think they didn't make really good signings in the winter at all, and losing the players that they did. And they had I think they had one American signing at centre half, came over, didn't like the cold, and left again. They got a decent defender from AIK on loan until July, I think. And it just seems like, how do you attract that level of player if I assume they're not paying the big bucks? And it's difficult to see really. You can get a better coach in, an experienced coach, but with that group of players, I mean, you've got good Veikkausliiga players, but you haven't got the players they've lost, and unfortunately, it's there. So fingers crossed, you'll get some improvement. But with the European games, 2 months away, I think it's going to be difficult to see them really challenging. But again, they've got Hoiko at home on Friday, putting a good performance there. Just don't get beat, mainly.
2 points, Rich. First of all, mate, obviously you mentioned the Hoiko game, but the next 2 are potential tricky ones as well. They've got AC Oulu away, and then Honka away. So, I mean, the Cups of old would be looking to go to both of those places and picking up points. But it'd be interesting to see what happens there. And then the other thing I wanted to say, has Nisila featured at all yet?
Yeah, he started his first game on Sunday at Mariehamn. He came on as a sub in the previous game against Ilves. But he didn't feature at all in the first 3 matches. I don't know if it was fitness or whatever it was. But as the new coach comes in, Nisila suddenly fit. And on Sunday he started and by all accounts played pretty well. I only saw the highlights. But and again, this a quality player who's only there in theory till July as well. But I mean, if he can get them firing and put stuff on a plate for other people, that'd be ideal. But I mean, that's kind of short-term fix. But I mean, long-term, I honestly don't know. But I mean, Honka turned up at Cups a couple of weeks ago and were far better than them. And this Honka team is average compared to last year, and they played Cups off the park.
Yeah, and I guess from my perspective, at the top of the table from
here we go
from Asiko. Okay, well, it's been a long time since I've been able to put all those words together in a sentence. That's for sure. And something might just be clicking. What's happened? Okay, so Asiko have 1-2, drawn 2, couple of 0-0s. First thing to note is 3 clean sheets out of 4 games. So similar to Hoiko, only 1 goal conceded in the first game of the season. Defensively, we look really solid. Against Oulu at the weekend, at times when Oulu were attacking, there were sometimes 7 or 8 white shirts from Asiko before you even saw the blue shirt of Ogieri in goal. And that was quite something. There was no getting through that. And okay, I'll drop my first name. I was speaking to Murillo in the bathrooms of a local bar last night, and our after night out, and I asked him like how many shots has Ogieri saved, and he was like, in the last 3 games, like maybe 1 or 2, which I think says quite a lot. Also on Saturday against Oulu, we played with 2 strikers. 2 strikers. Can you imagine such a thing? Like a 3-5-2, 5-3-2 formation with Ofori and Murillo getting down the wings, so they're both quite dynamic and getting up and down and covering the field. And the other thing was how was the type of goals that were scored. So after those, they started the season with a win against Huuhkajat at home, 2 0-0 draws, away to Honka, home to oh blimey, I was at the game as well.
Lahti.
Home to Lahti, yeah. Where it wasn't a bad, and they weren't bad games, and I think particularly the Honka away point is a decent point. But then on Saturday away to Oulu, the first goal was Jere Streng, who's big and strong and just sort of nudged the defender off the ball and ran through and stroked it home. And then the other 2 goals were scored by Jaime Moreno inside the box, and that's something that's been missing for, well, a good few years. Someone to get on the edge of the chances that are being created in and around the box. And he got one sliding in like Lineker to score from 2 yards, and the other was a header from the edge of the 6-yard box. Beautiful. I was talking last night to my friend Tom. Tom Dunn used to play for TP Seinäjoki, and I think maybe managed Assikor when the club first formed. And he's now coaching in the juniors section here. And he's been not the glowing supporter of what's been going on with the first team over the last couple of years. But he said he came into one of the games the other day. He only saw 15 minutes, but he said something's different. He said this year might just have a chance. And he said it was that the I don't know, there was a physicality there and a kind of not taking any nonsense. He saw it in the Suomen Cup game. We'll talk about that in a little while. But he said that the first team sort of bullied the academy, and there was a sort of steel to the side. So yeah, it's good to get some input from a few different sources and names of different value in the Finnish football podcast. But
you didn't ask Murillo what happened at Huuhkajat, did you? I mean, maybe the bathroom's not the right place, but
no, we just sort of said welcome back. It's good to have you here. Yeah. But
I mean, he will create chances this season, so I think it's only going to be a positive thing for Assikor this season.
I did blow a bit of smoke up his backside, metaphorically speaking. Obviously, we were in the bathrooms. By just saying that I was looking, I really enjoyed the sort of triangles that he played down the left wing a couple of years ago. I'm looking forward to getting that going again, and he was sort of looking forward to being very much involved as well this year. Keke, do you have something to say, or were you just stroking your beard?
No, I just wanted to say, we mentioned the Huuhkajat defence, but as you said, mate, Assikor have been just as stingy, only conceding that 1 goal. I just wanted to touch on Ville Tikkanen. Has he looked the real deal? I mean, I think he's only 23 years old. He's been playing either at the centre of a 3 or centre back partnership of a 4. How's he been looking, mate?
Yeah, no, it's very, very solid. Although I think the person that's caught the eye this year, Villa's been there a couple of seasons, and everyone's kind of fully behind him. And also there's Matthias Vainienpää, who's just coming back from injury, another sort of young homegrown player. But the one that's really caught the eye so far is Terry Yegbe, who came to the club during last season from this deal with the club in Ghana.
Yeah.
And made his way into the team even during last season. And now, and during like the Liga Cup games and the friendlies that we've seen, has just sort of grown. I mean, he's tall, he's big, he's got these short dreads that are bleached blonde. He catches the eye in many different ways, but also with how he's playing. And I think people are already saying, "Oh, if we can hold on to him for this season and maybe next, then that might be someone that could become one of the next transfers out of there." But yeah, the spine of sort of Tikkanen, Radetsky, Yegbe, Vainienpää, there's sort of any 3 from that 4, I suppose. And then in front, there's young Valentin Gask, who's Argentinian, was in the academy last year. And when I spoke to Kinney during last summer, he said he's really pushing. He's really pushing to be in there. And I'm a big fan of Noah Line, and Noah hasn't been starting, and Gask has. So there's and you look the game on. I think the game on Saturday, Puru Hannula was on the bench. Diego Rojas, who this little pocket creative maestro, who is lovely to watch on the bench, and still managed to put in that first half performance that got the 2 of the goals anyway.
It was nice to see that
Sorry, go on, Rich.
I was just going to say, touching on what we did earlier, the Ashikor Derby, the annual Ashikor Derby in the Cup. It was good that I think Ashikor make a big deal, not in my usual snarky way, but that, there's a lot of focus, a lot of money, a lot of resources goes into that academy side, and generally there's a lot of pride and rightfully placed, because I don't think, other than there's such an obvious pathway from the academy side to the first team, where I think other clubs use it as a necessity, and I think Ashikor use it as an opportunity. And I think that there is something there that I think behind the scenes that Ashikor has done quite well.
Yeah, the model is definitely changing, and there was a meeting with the Richie Dorman, Kinney, and the Larry, the supporters liaison, and the fans before Christmas. And I think I mentioned this before here, but it's worth saying again. They actually said, look, we always get compared to the big budget that we have, but that budget is being used in the past across 2 teams, first team in the academy. And now they've got this Academy 2 team playing in Kolmanen. And so they're trying to have these progression where academy players that are not quite ready can drop down but still play at a decent level. And academy players that are really excelling have got that pathway into the first team. And I don't know if you've seen what Joaquin Gomez Kinney has been saying in his social posts over the last couple of weeks. He said it 2 or 3 times. We've got the youngest team in the Veikkausliiga, and I think that's something the club is really proud of as well, and he's clearly proud of. So good that that's being noticed by you guys as well.
Yeah.
What else has caught your eyes aside from our 3 teams? What else has caught your eyes so far in the Veikkausliiga season? For me, the fact that Inter don't seem to want to play football matches is one of those things. What's going on there?
They were meant to be playing Lahti on Saturday, and Lahti had a mysterious bug ravaged their squad and asked for the game to be postponed. But they've had issues. I think their pitch. They moved the game because their pitch wasn't ready as well. So 2 games when other teams have played 5 is an odd one. Some of their squad players played for the reserve side at the weekend. Dropped a couple of divisions down. Yeah, pretty much. They hadn't played for 2.5 weeks. So they're expected to play this weekend, but who knows at the moment? It's a weird one. But it's just strange because they won their first game at Cups, and everyone thought, Jakovic, he's come in and he's done wonders. And they lost their second game. That ghost phantom goal that wasn't given, that went that 4 feet behind the line against Ilves, and that was it. They haven't played since. So by the time they line up on Friday, it'll be 3 weeks since their last league game. So
is it really?
Yeah. The last game was the 15th of April. So.
And they're coming up to Seinäjoki, to Fortress Oma Asper Stadium.
There you go. So.
No, that is. I hadn't realised it was quite so long. But then that said, the season started 3 weeks ago. So it's
it'll be a month, and then
nearly 4 weeks.
So they had their first round, then a 10-day gap because of Easter, and then their other games have been postponed or shunted. So
that's not good.
Strange one. One thing I will say, and I doubt we would have touched on it otherwise, was Mariham have done their usual pretty ropey start to the season. They got a draw in their first game at home at Ilves, but other than that, I've lost all their games. But they signed last week a winger, a Saudi winger called Abdul Fatih Asiri from Al Nassr, which is the club that Cristiano Ronaldo signed for in the winter. He left on a free, or his contract was cancelled by mutual consent. But he's gone to Mariehamn basically because I think at the time Finland were about the only country available with an open transfer window.
Right. Okay.
And he's gone there, and his 1.4 million Instagram followers have gone with him, and I think Mariehamn are going to try and milk that for all it's worth. I mean, he's played. I think he's got 20 appearances for the Saudi national team, and was, I think, prior at one point anyway, sort of doing quite well. I don't think Ronaldo's arrival there was the reason why he's left, but by all accounts, decent player, and if they can get him fit, and that he might do some good business there. But
that's a good one to watch out for.
Yeah, and I think just again some attention on Mariehamn. How they're still operating at this level is fantastic, but they always seem to be struggling, unfortunately. So fingers crossed. Ali.
Yeah, I think just to carry on from that. I mean, I do think that they do always seem to just about pull away and do all right, but I do think this year, now there isn't a Hifko or anyone like that around, it could be a real struggle for them. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting that they've got this Saudi winger in now, and I think they do need a little bit of positivity, because I think it's going to be a long old season for them.
A couple of other sides near the bottom. I noticed that VPS Vasa have got 2 draws and 2 defeats, so they're sitting second bottom on 2 points. They haven't scored a goal yet, but that's quite something. So they're either very tight in 0-0 draws, or they're getting done something nil.
Well, their 2 defeats were to Hoiko.
Oh right, okay. Well, that's fair. That does sort of skew things a bit.
Last season they were very, I don't want to use a politically incorrect term, bipolar, but they were very on and off when they play. I mean, they had some games where they absolutely thumped teams, and I think at one point they were the top scorers in the division about halfway through the season. Callum Multonen, eventually, I think he's in his 33, 34 now. He just had one of those years after kind of being a very good second tier striker, stepped up and finally started banging them in. They had what was
the Ipswich loanee, wasn't it?
Tete Yangi. Yeah, so he came in. He looked quite promising for a bit. Morrissey doing quite well as well off the bench, quite a lot. But I haven't. I'll be honest, I haven't seen them other than highlights this year. But it's not good. But then again, that fixture list has been harsh on them, and as we said earlier, Haka, they were a very functional, solid, boring, dull team under Teemu Tainio a couple of years ago. They added someone who just couldn't stop scoring last year, got them into Europe, and now he's gone, and they're back to where they were. And they got Ryan Mahuta, who's looking quite good for them. He scored in the first game. Did he score against Asiko? And other than that, I think they've really struggled, and I think they were winning against Honka last week and gave away a penalty in injury time for an equaliser. But I think that they've very much regressed to the mean there.
And maybe just before we move on from Veikkausliiga, just to note Kortepe, who came up last season, they're currently sitting in 8th, 4 points from 4 games, a win, a draw, and a couple of defeats. But they've come in swinging, I guess.
Yeah, they did okay against Cups, 0-0 draw, and then they beat Mariehamn, and I think there was a set piece goal was the first one. And I mean they made a lot of signings in the summer, a lot of signings. We'll talk about Venezia later on, but they had an agreement over the winter with Venezia and loaned 2 or 3 players from them who were all kind of very much on the cusp of that first 11, and. I guess in their case, they've made a lot of signings, and I mean, when they were up before, they didn't do too well. So hopefully this time they might stick around and at least be competitive. And as you said, I mean, there isn't that whipping boy. As long as you're not that one at the bottom who's struggling, they've already got a win on the board. So fingers crossed.
Maybe just run through the top scorers, those that have got more than one so far in the Veikkausliiga. There's 6 people Radulovic from Hoyikor sitting there with 5 from 5. Pennanen from Ilves, 3 from 4 games, same as Ashley Coffey at Oulu. And then 3 players on 2. There's Meriluoto from Hoyikor, Smith from Inter, and Jaime Moreno from Asicor. I think that's a decent little run through the Veikkausliiga. Some podcasts will give you that, and that'll be your show, but not us. We're carrying on. We've got a bit of Suomen Cup. Now we're at the Suomen Cup third round, which means there's an absolute shed-load of games. And I'm not going to read those fixtures because either I would fall asleep or the listener would fall asleep. No one wants to hear all that. I don't know if any of you guys have picked out any or noticed anything that's really caught your eye during these games so far.
Yeah, I'd say we already mentioned the Asicor derby last week. This and we joked about it last year. Last year, the rules of the cup forced teams of the same club to play each other in order to get rid of them. Basically, this Asicor game wasn't forced; it was a random draw, which made it all the weirder. The rules have been tweaked slightly. Have been reliably informed by Henrik from Buru, who said that essentially the more the forcing together of teams isn't as drastic as it was. So this week, Ilves 2 are playing Inter 2. Last year, that would have meant a guaranteed tie against whichever senior team was waiting for him in the next round, but that's not going to be the case now. But yeah, so you've still got a few kind of second teams lurking around in there. But last week, round 3 was the time where the Veikkausliiga teams pop in, all those sort of lower ranked ones. And yeah, they all won away from home because the higher team is away. So yes, Asicor beat Asicor, VPS won, KTP, Lahti won, and even Mariehamn won as well. Yeah, you've had a couple of thumpings, but I mean, one of the things that that I've enjoyed and got a lot of value out of is every so often in each round, what the television company do, Rutu, is they're allowing a public vote. So the public are allowed to vote on a game that they want to see screened. They screen the big teams. I'm not sure which ones they've done in their entirety, but they've allowed, okay, fill your boots. You choose one of these games and we'll go and we'll show it live. So they've got this week, the 7th of May, Fish United of the 5th division of looking for a place. Sorry, in the next round again. They're playing a 3rd division. Sporting Christina. Was that Ocod? Yeah. Sporting Christina. And that's going to be 5th division team. It's 3rd division team. It's going to be live on the main sporting channel, so back of the net. But yeah, again, the interest over the last couple of years in the tournament's really improved. You have still got those kind of amateur sides. Some of them have done well to get there. You've got your senior teams. I think TPS over 35's team got through, and I think they lost last week. Yeah, you're getting to that point where the big teams are now starting to come in. So I think Inter and AC Oulu are coming in, and the draw for round 4 is going to be made on the 4th of May, which is Thursday. But yeah, you've got some interesting teams still lying around there. But yeah, it'd be nice to see a couple of those smaller ones getting through to the next round and getting that plum draw against a Hoyik or Kups or Asicor at home.
Ali.
Yeah, Rich, I'm glad you mentioned that Fish United game, because the only thing I wanted to add onto that was I just wonder how they got their name. Like it feels like they'd created a team, and I don't know, the manager had asked their son or daughter, "What do you think we should be called?" over dinner, and that's how the name was created. But yeah, I'm certainly going to look out for that result, because yeah, I'm absolutely fascinated by that club now. I think I found my second team.
There was a team called Chicken Wings. I think they got knocked out in the last round.
Yeah, in the earlier rounds, there were some really good ones, weren't there, Rich? You was spitting them out on Twitter like every 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's gold, because, again, it is amateur. These are Joe average people and their teams, and they're allowed to enter, which in most examples is kind of a great thing about it. I mean, you've got Chicken Wings, Fish United. What else you got? Got a whole list. He-Man was one of them, wasn't it? He-Man, and I was kind of trying to find out if their game was against their home games were at Castle Grayskull, but
that would be
unfortunately not. You had Flamingo United, Afro Foot Club, AC Stasi, one for the historians there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I took in a couple of the Suomen Cup games in the last week. A couple of local. I was at the Ashley Core Derby, which I think they had like 950 fans there. They opened just the main stand, which I didn't realise was happening, and we agreed beforehand that hey, we're just going to cheer every goal because Ashley Core scored. It doesn't really matter, and that is what happened. There was. I think this was the game that my friend Tom came in to see, where he said that there was this steal to the first team, and the first half was quite one-sided. So I think it was 3-0 by halftime and 4-0 quite soon into the second half, if I remember correctly. There was maybe a little bit too much steal though, because Jake Dunwoody got himself 2 yellow cards and got sent off, and then the academy team. They ran out of substitutions. Now, I don't know if they had made all their changes or if they'd had their 3 opportunities to make subs. And then their goalkeeper got injured. And they did what every good team in every good Sunday League team does. That they put their biggest player in goal.
Love it.
He didn't look that happy to go in goal, but he went in there. And so both teams were then down to 10. He let one in, but he also pulled off a couple of saves, and they got the biggest cheers of the evening from all of the fans. So that was good fun. And then I went to the Seinäjoki Sisu versus Vaasa IFK game. So that was 5th division against 2nd. So there was a few divisions between, and the first half again was quite one-sided in favour of Vaasa, and there were 2 goals, including one really nicely curled goal in the first half, all within a couple of minutes. That kind of knocked the stuffing a little bit out of Sisu, but the second half was much more even, and Sisu made some chances, didn't quite have the quality to get back into the game. But did themselves credit.
I didn't recognise many of because Sisu were the kind of veteran side. I didn't recognise. No,
that was Apollo, Rich.
Oh, was that Apollo?
That's Apollo. Yeah. So I was going to mention those in a minute. Sisu's a team that my friend Paul has been managing since they were kids. Like he started running this team when his kid was 5. Tommy was 5. My boy Ollie played there for a couple of years when he was little, before he told me don't like football. So I've always kept an eye out for them. And because Paul and I do some work together with Wise, with sort of welcoming and helping people integrate into this area, we meet a lot of people who say, "Oh yeah, I've just moved here. I'd really like to play football." And Paul kind of welcomes them along, snaps them up, and gets them in his team. So he's got quite a diverse roster, shall we say, or squad of players there at Sisu, and so many that there's a first and second team adults teams now. So there's good stuff going on there. And yeah, you mentioned Apollo. I mean, there was a team list, a team photo for Apollo that came out a few weeks ago, and well, Mehmet Hetemaj retired from Ashikor and gone straight into Apollo alongside Tero Mantula and Mika Oyala, and there's some players there that haven't played professionally, but there's a lot of others that are having some fun in the Suomen Cup.
Well, one of the things, I mean, we talked about last year, and just a curio, was that one of their players, was it Christian Sund? He had to miss the game last year because he managed the team that they got drawn against.
Yes.
So you had that whole thing, and of course last year you had Ilves 2 beating Ilves 1, which I think could still happen if they get through the round. So
always
yeah,
fun.
that's always good. Yeah, but
and actually,
it's a good.
Ashiko Apollo, they play in the 6th, and I think maybe for them the glory is more in the Suomen Cup than the league is not so important. But they're playing against Keps from the Kolmonen division, so they're playing a couple of divisions above them. But they're playing against Pompa from the 3rd. Sorry, misread. Anyway, they're still playing a few divisions above, so there could be some fun and games there.
Yeah, but no, it's I mean, what they've done with the tournament, that committee they had, and they're really pushing, the kind of a little bit of the underdog stuff. They're really going at it in a way that was neglected for so long. And yeah, of course, when you get to the end, it is the business end and the big teams, but it's fun, and it's a real memory for these players and the fans of these teams to have that involvement. And because they're getting these chances against the bigger sides and they're getting that exposure, even if it's not money, even if it's attracting a few fans or people on Twitter go, oh, look at them, it's still something that, I mean, the work they've done behind the scenes there, and we slag the Palalita off quite a bit for some things, but for this, yeah, absolutely first class.
You mentioned also a game being shown on Ruutu, and I thought I'd just flag up, because if you see the artwork for this show, there's a picture of me and Mehmet Hetemai under the tifo at Ashiko last weekend, because Ruutu were there with Mehmet. He came into the Kloppid, and they made a little video of him being a member of the Kloppid during the game. And it was shown, I think, at halftime during the weekend games on Veikkausliiga games on Ruutu. So if you've got the account, it might be worth digging back through that. It's in Finnish, obviously. It's maybe 5 minutes. And I thought it would be my moment of glory, but I was standing right behind him and the camera was slightly to the side. So you basically see Mehmet with Lady Satu behind him and not enough of me. But my cap peeks its way around the side once or twice. So
I think that's television trying to tell you something, Mark.
Hey, I got a face for podcasting. What can I say? Yeah. All right. So all the for the Veikkausliiga and the Suomen Cup, all the links are in the show notes, and I kind of clip bits of clip things from various websites, drop the images in there, put the links to where you can find that stuff. So it kind of collates everything we've been doing today and links to where that stuff originally came from. But I think it might be time for a quick commercial break. Okay, so I thought I'd take you into the Finnish Football Show shop on TeePublic. I mentioned in one of the more recent episodes some new designs. If you can see me, or maybe you've noticed during the show, this new Suomi design. We're going to talk about the Finnish national team in a minute, so I thought I'd focus on the new Finland shirt. And you've got this panel behind with the Finnish Football Show logo running through it, and then Suomi on the front. I'll give you a little zoom in on the logo there, and it comes up quite nice on that t-shirt there. You can also see there's a discount running at the moment. I did post this on the Facebook group and page today, so hopefully you saw that. I understand that Jamie has ordered his Tampere in Ilves colours, so I'm going to be meeting Jamie at a game in a few weeks' time, and we'll be able to wear our matching or competing t-shirts. They come in, as we've shown before, men's and women's fits. And actually, when I ordered these, I ordered 2 for me, and then I ordered one for a Suomi one for Satu as well. They were sent from America, and I was a bit worried that they arrive in Finland and they get loads of import duty and VAT and all that added to them. But it seems like TeePublic takes care of all that their end, so the stuff just arrived. Magic.
Nice.
Worked nicely, and especially if you can get yourself a nice little 25% discount there. We don't control the prices, as we've said before, but for every t-shirt sold we make a few euros literally that goes to the running of the show, all the hosting and the website and various bits and pieces. So yeah, get yourself a Suomi shirt. We got some qualifying games coming up in June, and we will be wearing ours to the Olympia Stadium. That's for sure. Rich, we've also got the Buy Me a Coffee account. Tell a little bit about that.
So that's no commitment, no monthly subscription or anything. We did talk about that once, didn't we? But this is a way that people can very generously buy us a coffee, buy us a beer, contribute to the running costs of the podcast, whether it's the Zoom, the website hosting, the podcast hosting, Instagram ads, all that kind of stuff, all goes in the pot. We've had some very generous donations over the time. I still haven't bought my new telly with the ones from yourself from, was it last year? The one that Johan gave us a couple of years ago that paid for mine and Keke's bar tab for the Finland-Denmark game back in the Euros. But it's all generously received. There's no you get our eternal thanks and normally a shout out on the show. So small beans, but it makes a big difference.
Okay, enough selling. Let's get back to the football. And Rich, you mentioned a couple of days ago that there's a Women's Nations League is starting this year, and there's going to be the draw for this taking place. And then I started to investigate how this thing works, because I just assumed, we know the Nations League. That's how it works. But this one's a little bit different. Do you want to have a run at explaining this, and I'll interrupt you, or should we go the other way around?
All I could see from it was that the initial format looks similar.
Yeah,
you've got 51 teams rather than 55, and you've got 3 leagues: League A, League B, League C. Finland are in League B. They're in the top pot for League B. And the idea is that, like the men's, there are playoff places for Euro 2025 awaiting at the end. That's kind of where the similarities end, because as well as the promotion and relegation, you've also got playoffs of promotion and relegation between the teams that come third in one league and teams come second in the league below. So essentially what you're going to have is vast changes, whereas in the men's one, it's quite top goes up, bottom goes down. That's it, end of it. This time around, you've basically got the potential for League B of all 4 teams either going up or going down. You could have your one winning, your second one going up from a playoff, third going down from a playoff, and your fourth getting relegated by fact. So it's a really, I'm not sure quite why they've done it, other than possibly just to mix things up. There's less political pressure, there's less TV money like there is in the men's game, where, of course, in the men's one in the first edition, I think they only had 3 groups of 3, and they decided to change the format while they were still playing because people actually liked the Nations League, weirdly. And with this, you've got the knockout final at the end, like you've got with the men's, but the whole system around the playoffs is you've got 2 finalists will qualify for the 2024 Olympics, which is in France, alongside France. And then you've got places going to the next Euros as well. So it's just absolutely bananas.
Rich, are you sure that they qualify for the Euros? Because my understanding is that there's a whole kind of repeat of this. So once all the promotion and relegation is sorted, then the teams are put into their groups again for a separate Euro qualification process.
Sounds about
So
right,
it's almost like one year there's Nations League, and then the next year the same structure is used for Euros qualification.
Oh, God. Well, I'll go with your judgment on that.
Well,
that makes less sense, so therefore it makes more sense to you, right?
Yeah, and like it sounds, and then this kind of the qualifying final positions for the Euro qualification then sets the groups for the next Nations League whenever that takes place.
All right, so okay, yeah, I've got it. I'm reading it on the cuff.
Yeah,
The top 2 teams from League A remain in League A for the European qualifiers for Euro 2025. So League B, 4 group winners are promoted. I've gone cross-eyed already.
Yeah, it's true. And I've put the from that UEFA website, listener, I've put the links in the blog post, or the one link. It's written out quite clearly, but there's a lot of writing there, so it takes a bit of thinking. And so
effectively, this edition feeds the Olympics and then the qualifying for Euro. Oh,
yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So it feeds two teams to the Olympics. You get to win a Nations League prize, and it sets the groups for Euro qualification. That's it in a nutshell.
There we go.
But there's some very pretty almost scientific looking diagrams on that UEFA website, and also in our blog post. So hopefully that's helpful. And I suspect that every time we talk about this, I'll be referring back to this blog post. Sure.
The weird thing is that I normally get to grips with this stuff. I have no idea. I don't know what they've done, but yeah. But
we kind of said that about when the Men's Nations League started, and then you realise that you don't need to know all the permutations.
Yeah.
You just need to know this is what's happening now, and then at the end of this group stages, we'll see where people are, and we'll work out what happens next.
Well, yeah. Well, anyway, Finland are in pot 2.
Right, okay.
Sorry, League B.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what. There's from following the men's team. There's some familiar nations in there. I mean, like Ukraine, Bosnia, Slovakia, Greece. Yeah, Slovenia, Northern Ireland.
Do you mean that Finland could be drawn against, Keke?
Yeah. So there's some very familiar teams there. We could be travelling to these countries for men's games and women's games.
I have to say, I didn't even get that far to looking at what teams are in there. I was looking at the format.
Right. So we're in League B, Pot 1 with the Republic of Ireland, Poland, and Czech Republic. So and then there's Pot 2, Serbia, Slovenia, Northern Ireland, and Romania. Pot 3 is Ukraine, Bosnia, Slovakia, and Hungary. And Pot 4 is Greece, Croatia, Belarus, and Albania. So, yeah.
I guess it shows that the men's and women's teams for those various countries are all about the same sort of level as each other.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually.
All right. I think we just about got away with that one, gents.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of the Finland national team, looking at the men's national team, we mentioned in the last episode, like this kind of format show, that the Paloliitto was selling season tickets for the Huuhkajat this year, and buy a ticket for 5 games through this year, which I thought was a brilliant idea, and seems to have had the desired effect on the Huuhkajat Instagram page, which I've sort of embedded in our blog post here. There's a neat little video showing how many tickets have been sold for each game, and the Finland-Slovenia game on Friday, 16th of June. There's already 27,000 tickets sold. Brilliant. Now, when we all met up at the game for the France game, 1.5 or 2.5 years ago, that was a sellout. There were 30-odd thousand in there, and it was a great atmosphere and a real event. So to have almost 30,000 there already for Slovenia, we're talking what?
6 weeks away.
Yeah, 6 weeks away from kickoff. I think that's quite only 6 weeks. Only 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away from midsummer. Then the days start getting shorter, and winter's on its way. That's a thoroughly depressing thought. 27,000. That's quite something. And then the San Marino game a few days later, 18,000. Denmark in autumn, 18,000, and then Kazakhstan and Northern Ireland later in the year, 10,000 each for those. Probably they reflect, to a degree, season ticket sales as well, but even so,
I think particularly for the Slovenia game, clearly, Finnish people have earmarked that as a must-win game. It's a big game, and it will be a sellout by the time we get round to that. So, hopefully, home advantage will be a real help in that game.
Like you say, that's Friday night in June.
Yeah, exactly, Rich. That's what I was going to say. For me and Satu, we chose a game, and now we sort of got into the routine coming down to watch one game a season at the Olympia Stadium, and that was Friday night. And for me, it was more competitive as well. I wasn't so excited about San Marino, but the Slovenia game hopefully will be competitive, and that's if we can focus from our vantage point in the Pohjois-Karre, but we'll do our very best to pay attention to the game. It always amazes me, Keke, that you come out of that place with all the refreshments that are going on in there and all the jumping around and the lack of a stable viewing position, and you seem to have an idea what's going on in the game. I don't know how you do it. I can't. Unless you just make it up. Are you making it up as you go along?
Pretty much.
Okay, right, fair enough. I should take a leaf out of your book. Yeah, so there's in the show notes are the list of all the results so far for the qualifiers and the upcoming fixtures there, and links to the Palolito page where you can find all the Huuhkajat stuff. Keke, do you want to do a little bit of Finns overseas?
Can do, yeah. I mean,
what have you got to tell us?
There's plenty going on, mate. There's plenty going on. Before we get on to some, well, depending on which way you look at it, some really exciting news from today. There was some earlier news from today. There's a Women's Champions League game taking place as we speak. Rich's team, Arsenal, are taking on Wolfsburg. It's just second half of extra time's just kicked off. Currently 2-2 in that game. But yeah, Finnish referee Linna Lettovara is taking charge of that. And you've just touched on ticket sales there. I think the Emirates Stadium's sold out for that one tonight. 60,000 odd people in there for the Women's Champions League. So
all to see a Finnish referee.
Yeah,
that's it, mate. That's
amazing.
it. Yeah. So yeah, she's obviously bit of extra running because it's gone to extra time. But yeah, nice to see that UEFA have entrusted that one to her.
Yeah, she's really risen to the top in the last year or two, isn't she? And getting some of these really big games. Good to see.
But yeah, the other thing that we were all frantically tapping away and the whole Finnish football community was going bananas about today was the fact that Jarl Poyanpalo can't stop scoring. And these, I mean, we were just counting them as they went in. And when he sort of got the third one for the hat trick, it was like, wow, hat trick, here we go. And he wasn't finished yet. He scored 4 in a 5-0 win for Venezia today. And I mean, we just sort of touched on it before we came on to recording. Venezia, who seem to have a sort of disastrous start to the season, have really turned things around, and they're still sort of looking like there was a possibility for them to qualify for the playoffs for Serie A. So obviously Jesse Jordan was in goal today, and he's kept a clean sheet as well against Modena, I think it was. And so Jole pulling up trees, doing decent things, and it's nice to see him scoring goals.
Very good. Ali, you mentioned Jari Urunen as well.
Yeah, he played 75 minutes for Schalke at the weekend. Arguably one of their biggest games of the season. They've been struggling all year, but I mean, I only watched the highlights of the game, but the highlights that I did see, he put in some really good crosses, a couple of key passes in there. Schalke went on to win 2-1 to really boost their survival hopes. And I've never really, for a couple of reasons that I won't bore you with, I've never really liked Schalke, but I have to say, if they do stay up, I will be sort of half happy, for him, because it will be great for him to have another season at a huge Bundesliga club.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clearly, he's starting in a big game. He's clearly trusted by the manager.
Schalke are huge but hopeless, aren't they? They're a bit like Everton, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's as Ali said, it's with Jari Urunen playing regularly. It's only good for the national team. Another one who's getting minutes and playing well. And if anyone's been following Rich on Twitter, I mean, like you, Rich, when you first put the video out, I thought it was an absolutely fantastic goal. But
it got me. I showed it to Satu, and she was like, "Oh no!" And I was like, "What do you mean? It was great." And she's like, he missed. And then
mate.
Rich noticed and we all mocked him
But yeah,
mercilessly.
for those who listening who don't know who we're talking about, Robin Lodd, who had a storming man of the match performance in a 0-0 draw against FC Dallas earlier this morning. It was the ball sort of broke out in the middle of midfield. He sort of chested it down, beat 1, 2, 3, 4 players, and then sort of had a side foot shot inches wide. But yeah, cracking bit of play by Robin Lodd.
But apparently, if you squint without your glasses on, then it looked like a really good goal.
He scores.
It was first thing this morning. I don't know. I hadn't had my coffee yet. One former Hoyko alumni who's done well is Casper Terho, who went to Belgium in the winter to Union SG Royale, whatever. He scored. He came off the bench and scored against Leverkusen in the Europa League, and then scored 2 in his next game in the league. And he was a big player for Hoyko and went for some decent money. I think it was about 350,000 euros in the winter. And once he got himself settled in, he didn't really play much. I think minutes here and there, but he's doing well. And got Nathan Scooters doing over in Denmark on loan from Toulouse. Is scoring goals freely for Adence. So
he's doing really, really well over there.
Yeah, these young Finnish kind of attacking midfielder types. They're a nice little generation of them doing well abroad.
You mentioned Casper Terho. Obviously, that goal he scored against Leverkusen went past his compatriot Lucas Radetzky, who might have been a bit annoyed with that. But they're another side who had a dreadful start to the season, but have really, really turned it around. Luque kept a clean sheet again this weekend, and they've made their way up the Bundesliga table, and look to be doing okay. I think we mentioned him a couple of weeks ago actually, because he's been, the football season started across the Nordics now, and Simon Skrab, he's playing really well. Sort of one of the forgotten men of Finnish football. Really had a couple of games for the national team a few years ago, and he scored a couple of goals for Kalmar, creating as well, putting in assists. They won their most recent game 2-0, I believe, and Simon Skrab was responsible for assisting both goals there. So we've talked about it before, and sometimes River doesn't mind going back the way and choosing players who have been left out in the cold for a bit if the form allows it. So you never know, we might see Simon Skrab back in the Huuhkajat.
Ali?
I just wanted to give a shout out to Teemu Pukki. It's going to be his final Norwich game on Monday the 8th. In a week's time. They are at home to Blackpool. They will not be playing for anything. So it's not quite the fairy tale ending that he probably would have hoped for. But I'm sure he's going to get a massive reception because, they'd probably build a statue of him. He's loved so much over there. So, just wanted to big him up just before his final home game at what's been, a very successful spell, really, at Norwich for him.
It's amazing what a Norwich going to do. I mean, that phase they went through a couple of years ago, where they essentially took credit for Finland qualifying for the Euros. That weekend against the Liechtenstein game, they had a pop-up shop in Helsinki. They had the nightclub night, the Pukki party, and there was that thing doing the rounds. Yeah, they went to some sort of sporting convention, basically saying Finnish people will be thanking Norwich City for their greatest hour in 30 years' time.
The Finnish football show was sniggering up its sleeve all the way.
But I mean, what Pukki's done, I think he's their 4th on their all-time goal scorer list now, and I think wherever he goes next, be interesting to see whether it's time for him to come back to Finland, or has he got one last move, maybe like, I don't know, States or something like that for a year or two, who knows? But it's I mean, he's done really well. I mean, for his career, he was so up and down. And then he got that move to Brøndby, and that's kind of where it started. And then he went to Norwich and had that. Was it 4 years he's been there, or 5? Can't remember. And he's just, the amount of goals he scored have been fantastic. And Yeah, what a servant he's been.
Yeah,
I mean,
think
I'm sure that was a bit tongue in cheek, Ali, when you said about the statue, but it wouldn't be too far from the realms of reality, actually, because what he did for Norwich, fired them to the Premier League twice. Did he? Scored goals in the Premier League. I mean, there was that famous one against Manchester United. He scored goals in the Prem, and yeah, it just seems a bit sad that it's all ended with a bit of a whimper. He hasn't been featuring much at all lately, but yeah, I'm sure even if he doesn't start the match, I mean, I'm sure he'll get a decent run out so he can say a good bye bye to the Norwich City faithful.
Yeah, bring him on, give him, whatever, second half an hour, and then let him say goodbye to the crowd, I guess.
Just one more I wanted to give a mention to. It would be remiss of me not to mention the latest Finn to pick up a championship medal, Thomas Lamb. He's been crowned a A-League champion down there in Australia. He's been there for a few months and he's featured quite a bit, chipped in with a couple of goals as well. But yeah, Melbourne City were crowned champions of the A-League. I'm not exactly sure how it works, if it's just they're champions of the A-League and then some of these countries then do like a playoffs, or they get crowned Premier and then they play a kind of a playoff thing for the actual champion. But yeah, I believe it's Premier, as they call it in Australia. Yeah. So yeah, he's they finished top of the league anyway, so that'd do for me. So yeah, congratulations, Thomas Lamb.
I guess also worth mentioning, Ali mentioned the Norwich final couple of games of the season, and also in the Championship, very much in contention for playoffs is Marcus Forss at Middlesbrough, who's been scoring some goals, and might be able to help his team get up through the playoffs into the Premier League. It's been a while since Middlesbrough have been up there, that's for sure.
Yeah, they lost today. Forss didn't feature. They're still in that. They're still well in those playoff positions.
Yeah, I think safely in there.
Yeah, but surprisingly, I don't think Marcus featured for their previous game either. I haven't seen that he's picked up an injury or anything, but prior to that, yeah, banging in goals, getting assists. So, I mean, I think I've said it on the show before. I've got no special leaning towards Middlesbrough. I don't really have any feelings towards them at all, really. But to see Marcus Forss back in the Premier League with another club would be fantastic. So, yeah, I'll certainly be keeping my fingers crossed for them and for him.
For sure. And I've also left in the notes the links to the Veikkausliiga transfers, this vital Veikkausliiga webpage where they update it with all the transfers that have been going on. And as a little taster, interesting transfer from Asikor, who sold Macario Hinglover to China, exactly. Yeah. Now, he only joined at the end of last season, played in some Liga Cup and friendly games, and then was sold. So joined for nothing and then was sold on for a significant fee. Now, that is good business.
I don't know if it's good business for Asikor or bad business for Huuhkajat, but I think that was something that there was I think that was a move that had been mooted previously, and he went to Asikor, and that was kind of still, it might happen. And I think because of the fact that he hasn't played an official game for Asikor meant that he could move freely. Yeah, that was a weird one.
But both those things could be true at the same time, Rich. It could be bad for one and good for the other, and I know what I'm happiest with.
Yes, but yeah, it's one of these weird things. And again, the Veikkausliiga window, I think there is some caveats, but yeah, I think they're still able to sign free agents and register them from abroad. And obviously with the Euro games coming, I think Honka are kind of in desperate need of some signings. But yeah, it's been a good window, a busy window, and yeah, we'll see what happens in the next. I think the Euro qualifiers start kind of mid-July this year. They're slightly later, but yeah, mid-July.
I'll see if I can find any more tips or inside knowledge by scouring the bathrooms and washrooms of Seinäjoki over the next few weeks until the next episode for you.
In the know.
And on that bombshell, I reckon it's time to wrap it up. Ali, thanks for joining us.
Kiitos, moi moi.
Keke, good to see you. Thanks a lot.
Kiitos, näkemiin.
And Rich, thanks a lot.
Hey.
Good. See you all again soon. And listener, until next time, thanks for watching the Finnish Football Show. You've been listening to the Finnish Football Show. You can find us online at finishfootballshow.com. Remember to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening or watching. You can follow the Finnish Football Show page and group on Facebook and also on Instagram. See the links in the episode description. You can also connect with the 5 hosts on Twitter, at Explore Finland, at FC Suomi, at Escape to Suomi, at Keke and at Mano99. Links to the Finnish Football Show merch stores are also in the episode description.